Now I call on the Taoiseach Deputy Enda Kenny to make a statement under Standing Order 45. Taoiseach.
Last Thursday, a majority of the UK electorate made a decision that will have a lasting impact on the future of these islands. On Friday, Prime Minister Cameron telephoned me to inform me personally of the result and of his intention to resign. He thanked the Irish Government for its support all through the process. He committed to ensuring that there would be early bilateral engagement at senior official level on key issues now arising. These include Northern Ireland, the border and the common travel area. That high-level contact between officials will take place this week, initially in Cancora. While this is not the result that the Government wanted, we fully respect the voter sovereign choice in the United Kingdom. But I and my colleagues in Government have been very clear all along that a leave result in the referendum would have very significant implications at a national, bilateral and international level. Many members of the House also supported that view and helpfully engaged in advocating Ireland's position, particularly among the Irish and the Irish-connected communities who had a vote. I believe that a cross-party approach will be valuable in the time ahead. I briefed opposition leaders last Friday on contingency plans and next steps in the EU-UK negotiation process. I was encouraged to hear that members are willing to use their influence through their own party affiliations in Europe to ensure that Ireland's position is well understood. I very much welcome this constructive approach. While the referendum result is not the outcome we wanted, we always knew that this result was possible, and we are ready for the challenges ahead. The stakes have always been higher on this issue for Ireland than for any other EU member state. The reasons for this are well known. Firstly, the economy and the relative importance of each other's markets for trade. Secondly, Northern Ireland, the peace process and the British-Irish relations. Thirdly, the common travel area and our shared land border. And fourthly, the role of the United Kingdom within the European Union and its strategic value to Ireland in that context. The Irish Government was therefore very active throughout this entire process in engaging with the UK Government and with our EU partners, outlining both our concerns and our interests. We advocated for a Remain outcome having regard to the jurisdictional boundaries because that was in our national interest. In parallel, we also deepened our understanding of the implications of a UK vote to leave the European Union. That was also in our national interest. And our primary goal now is to protect and to advance those interests. Prior to last year's general election in the UK, I strengthened my own department's capacity to focus specifically on bilateral relations between Ireland and Britain, including issues that would arise in the context of a change in the European Union-United Kingdom relationship. Work commenced across government departments to identify the key strategic and sectoral issues that could arise for us if the UK were to vote to leave the European Union. We have a whole of government contingency framework within which we will continue to track and to develop key policy issues and negotiation positions. This will be used in key economic areas like trade and energy interconnection, social welfare arrangements, education and research cooperation. It will in reality extend right across every single area of government activity. Above all, our contingency management arrangements will prioritise the key political and strategic issues arising from the implications for Northern Ireland, the common travel area and the border. We recognise that detailed contingency planning for a Brexit is particularly challenging. This is for a number of reasons. First, we do not know the precise arrangements or the timescale for the United Kingdom's withdrawal from the European Union. Secondly, we do not know what the new relationship between the United Kingdom and the European Union will be. And thirdly, we do not know who the new British Prime Minister will be and what his or her attitude might be. Nevertheless, we will scale up and intensify work to mitigate risks across government departments and in key agencies like Enterprise Ireland and the Industrial Development Authority. Detailed negotiation strategies will be prepared now on each of the key points for use in negotiations in Brussels, in London, in Belfast and other capitals as appropriate. It's important to recall that Ireland will work within the EU context. At the same time, as everybody knows, we have unique bilateral interests with the UK, including with regard to Northern Ireland. The Government will also have to work bilaterally in close contact with the United Kingdom Government and the devolved administration in Northern Ireland. I travel to Brussels tomorrow for a meeting of the European Council, where there will be a first opportunity for a collective response to the situation by all the Member States. I will have an opportunity to underline and outline our specific interests and our concerns and to make clear our national position. Prime Minister Cameron will also attend tomorrow's meeting, where he will have an opportunity to speak to the other 27 EU leaders on his own interpretation now of the outcome and of the next steps to be taken. However, I expect that on Wednesday morning there will be a substantial discussion among the heads of state or government of the 27 other Member States, without the presence of the United Kingdom being there. I have no doubt that it will be underlined that Article 50 of the Treaty on European Union is the only legal basis for a Member State to withdraw from the European Union. I also want to make it clear that it is the European Council, the leaders of the different countries, under the direction of President Donald Tusk, and not any other EU institution or subgroup, which will have overall political control of the process involved here. This is important to Cancórla. I think that in other governments there is a full understanding that there has been a political earthquake in the United Kingdom, the consequences of which will take some time to work out. I expect that there will be broad consensus that we will need to await the entry into office of a new British Prime Minister before a formal exit notification can be made. So the negotiations on withdrawal are unlikely to commence for some time yet, and they will take a considerable time to complete. A 2-year time frame is envisaged in the treaty, though as Cancórla knows, this has never been tested in previous times. In the meantime, it's important that people are aware, as I mentioned earlier, that the UK has not, for now, left the European Union. Until it does so, following the Article 50 negotiations, it remains a full member with its existing rights and its existing obligations. There will be no early change to the free flow of people, of goods or of services between our islands. I also want to underline that the withdrawal negotiations will be only one part of this story. They will prepare the way for exit, addressing issues such as the phasing out of the United Kingdom budget payments, the completion of existing programmes in which the United Kingdom takes part, the status of United Kingdom officials in Brussels, and so forth. But they will not address the crucial question of the United Kingdom's future relationship with the Union as a third country outside it. Separate negotiations on the new relationship between the United Kingdom and the European Union will therefore take place, if that is what the United Kingdom seeks or will seek. It is in this second set of negotiations that such crucial questions as the UK's future trading relationship with the European Union and the movement to and from the UK will be addressed. It is expected that they will begin and be carried forward in parallel with the withdrawal negotiations. Ireland's starting point will be straightforward. A stable, prosperous and outward-looking United Kingdom is clearly in our interests and those of the European Union as a whole. The closer the UK is to the EU, the better for all of us, and above all, for this country. However, it will be up to the UK itself to work out what it wants to achieve and how it sees its future. And that strategy is unclear at the moment. Within the European Union, Ireland will argue that the negotiations should be conducted in a positive and a constructive way. But this will also depend upon the approach of the United Kingdom. I will encourage the next British Prime Minister to set realistic and achievable objectives and to build confidence in the United Kingdom's good faith. I also want to be clear that in doing so, Ireland will not be alone. It is in nobody's interest for the UK and the EU to have anything but the best possible future relations. Among the other 26 member states, there will be a number of others who will, like us, be particularly anxious to see such an outcome, and we will cooperate and work particularly closely with them. Our first priority will be to ensure that our own specific interests are protected to the maximum degree possible. We will, in parallel, take forward with the UK those matters which can be settled bilaterally, in part or in whole. But in many crucial areas, above all those where the EU has the strongest competence, such as trade, it will be the outcome of the wider negotiations which will be decisive. Building on our strong partnerships, political relationships, and using our team of experienced officials over many years in Dublin, Brussels and EU capitals, the Government will ensure that the EU approach to these negotiations takes account of Ireland's special concerns and interests, including in relation to Northern Ireland. Indeed, we have been actively engaging with our counterparts across Europe for some time now to make sure there is a clear understanding and an appreciation of these aspects, and I am confident that this is so. I also want to make it clear that I or my officials will be at the table for every major decision in respect of these negotiations. It's important to recall that the majority of our goods and services exports are to the euro area, 34%, and the US 17%, and the UK accounts for around 16% of exports. The UK remains a member of the single market until such time as negotiations are concluded, and overall our trading relationship continues as normal. Currency fluctuations will present some challenges in the short term for indigenous small and medium enterprises and the agri-food sector in particular. Enterprise Ireland is implementing a plan to help exporters and a short-term strategy identifying other options and possible instruments will be developed to protect jobs in particularly vulnerable sectors. The impact on enterprise and trade in border counties will be monitored very closely. As part of overall contingency planning, a dedicated unit has been established in the Department of Agriculture to work on relevant sectoral issues, and the Minister will convene a consultative committee of interest groups to ensure a full exchange of information as the negotiations proceed. Board BIA will provide practical guidance to small and medium enterprises to assist them in dealing with marketing challenges and the management of volatility that will arise in the short term. The Minister for Jobs and Innovation, Enterprise, will be working to ensure that there is certainty as early as possible on the terms of future trading relationships, including the extent of access by the UK to the EU's single market. Of course, Ireland remains a strong, competitive and open economy. Our talent pool, competitive and consistent tax regime and long track record of working with foreign companies is something that companies are always interested in. The fact that Ireland is English speaking and a member of the EU and the Eurozone is an added attraction. IDA Ireland will continue to market Ireland across the globe as the #1 location for foreign direct investment. I noted the comments of the Chief Executive this morning of his view that the latter half of this year will be particularly strong for job investment from abroad into Ireland. I welcome the Prime Minister's clear statement that Northern Ireland's interests will be fully reflected in the British Government's negotiating position. The Government fully recognises that the outcome of the UK referendum creates particular concerns in Northern Ireland. I fully understand why many people in Northern Ireland are deeply concerned that Northern Ireland will be outside of a project that has delivered so much for political stability, for reconciliation and for economic prosperity. So we will continue to work urgently and intensively with both the British Government and the Northern Ireland Executive to see how collectively we can ensure that the gains of the last 2 decades are fully protected in whatever post-exit arrangements are eventually negotiated. All 3 administrations share the common objective of wanting to preserve the common travel area, which has been here since 1922, and an open border on the island of Ireland. This work has already commenced through a round of phone calls that Minister Flanagan undertook on Friday. Next Monday's plenary meeting of the North-South Ministerial Council in Dublin, which I will chair, will provide an opportunity for the Irish Government and the Northern Ireland Executive to have a strategic discussion around how we are going to work together to protect the interests of all our citizens on the island of Ireland. And it will be of particular importance that we know exactly what the main priorities of the Northern Ireland Executive will be. And these talks eventually conclude. And if the process is concluded, obviously it's in Northern Ireland's interest that the government here are able to articulate what those priorities are, as needs be. So I'll travel to Brussels tomorrow for a meeting of the European Council. At that meeting I will set out clearly our national position. I will ensure that our particular national interests are fully respected as we prepare to enter the next phase of negotiations. Ireland's in an important position here at Concorla, given the strength of our relationship with the United Kingdom on one hand and our connectedness to the European Union on the other. Our ministers and officials are well respected and well connected in both London and in Brussels. We will not be found wanting in contributing constructively to discussions in the days ahead. However, let me be absolutely clear. My primary goal is Ireland's national interests, and that goal will be foremost in any discussions with the UK, with our EU partners, and between the EU collectively and the United Kingdom. Let me just finish by saying that references to our corporate tax rate being the possible subject of change are not valid. This is a national competence, and our corporate tax rate will not change. We have resisted every attempt on this in the past and will do so again in the future. So, Concorla, these negotiations may not commence yet for some time. We will play our full part on an issue that will have consequences for many in the years ahead. I hope that working together in the context of Ireland, that we can achieve our ambitions given the new circumstances and the situation that applies. And I will keep the House and the members fully appraised and informed as needs be at Concorla.
Thank you very much, Taoiseach. Deputy